Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to this 4-day event of Kuala Lumpur International Aerospace Business Convention. Firstly, I would like to thank the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, MITI, Martrade, the Malaysian Aerospace Industry Association, MAIA, and Advanced Business Events in association with Business Aerospace, the organizers. My name is Amartya Dey. I am serving as Associate Director and Principal Consultant for Aerospace and Defense Practice at Frost & Sullivan. I'm based in Australia and I'm part of the Asia Pacific team at Frost & Sullivan. Happy to chair today's session on manufacturing and supply chain, new opportunities and future challenges. Let's take a quick stock of events which have happened in 2020. All of us have witnessed that aviation industry has been at the forefront of taking a hit during the COVID pandemic and beyond. An industry which has high entry barriers and a small margin has been very adaptive to current situation and constantly innovating in order to survive and thrive under current circumstances. OEMs and supporting supply chain have adapted changes in their business processes and have imbibed best-in-class digital technologies to keep them agile. Today, we have an impressive line of speakers from engine OEMs such as Rolls-Royce, aircraft integrator, namely Boeing, infrastructure players such as Malaysia Airports Holdings Berhad and Bolstead Projects, aerospace manufacturers such as BMW and Spirit AeroSystems, and last but not the least, the new age urban mobility solution providers such as Volocopter. Each of these companies have an integral role to play in the aviation ecosystem and especially in aerospace manufacturing domain. Today's presentation would be focusing on impact of COVID-19 beyond and during the crisis, especially on aerospace manufacturing, how we have evolved, the workforce challenges, liquidation of some assets, and cancellation of deliveries, next generation aircraft features, leaner business practices, consolidation across OEMs, mergers, acquisitions, layoffs, and government support. The constant changing ecosystem of suppliers and back-end MRO supportive ecosystem. Several segments, namely airlines, airports, manufacturing, and MROs, have prepared some key action items. We shall be listening to all these key imperatives, action items, how the C-suite and various senior management across companies have planned for the way ahead in 2021. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker this morning, Mr. Luke Sheffer, Corporate Lab Director and Chief of Manufacturing Technology, Rolls-Royce. He will be speaking on manufacturing technology for a low carbon economy. Please welcome Mr. Sheffer. Over to you.
Everyone, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, Liam. Please go ahead.
Okay. All right. I am sharing. So can you see the slides?
Yes, we are able to see the slides. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I'm just setting up. Okay. Thank you for having me today. So I'll touch on what we've done in Singapore. So I'm responsible for technology development. In Singapore, we've got 2 plants, one manufacturing fan blades, white core titanium fan blades, and another one assembling engines. We started these digital projects before COVID. what we had to do is to accelerate the digital aspect of those programs, especially on the governance and the way we run all our sessions. And it's been very successful. I'm very pleased that the team managed to continue despite the headwinds, including refurbishing one of our labs. Obviously, we had a lockdown in Singapore, but we managed to push through. So I'll take you through the way we develop technology and the digital content of what we do here in Singapore. So that's the agenda that I'm planning to use today. So I'll touch on quickly about Rolls-Royce, and then I'm going to the sort of technologies that we're developing and maturing here, and then partnership model that we use, and a few. So we've recently changed a little bit our strap line. So now it became to be a bit more than civil large engine provider. We've got this year especially, we're already looking at a few other things, more electrification, more digital manufacturing, and more alternative green power sources. And so COVID just accelerated that vision. So what you see on the screen here is the manufacture of one of our composite casings, and we've also quite a few other things that are going on in this facility. So that's not actually in Singapore. But you would have read in the news that we're also considering small modular reactor, and that's something that we're pushing quite hard now. So that's our transition to the power that matters to us, green power and sustainable power. So as I said, electrification is becoming very important. Quite a few programs running. We've partnered also with a few other industries. We've also bought Siemens E5. Very important for us that we transition towards sustainable power, being potentially hydrogen flight. So we're also exploring fuel cells. As it stands, the business is of our resources are still in civil. So that's probably the Rolls-Royce power systems that people know the most. So civil large engines. But we do have quite a lot of marine application in power systems. So that's I say marine application because that's the biggest. But we also power trains. We power quite a few things with traditional engines, so reciprocating engines, as you see on the picture there. Under the brand of MTU, sometimes you would recognize that brand maybe. That's also part of Rolls-Royce. And then defense, we're all in over 100 countries, and we're powering quite a few air force. And that's actually a business that stayed very stable even during COVID. Now I'll move to the manufacturing technologies. So the challenge that we have is that we do need to be working on what we will do in the future, especially in my division. So I'm the corporate lab director and the chief of manufacturing. Take you through this presentation through what it means. Early TRL level, so technology readiness level, are developed in our UTC, so University Technology Centers. So I'm responsible for that for the Asia Pacific region. And then we use technology centers, which I will touch on later on, to mature that technology that we've developed within universities into an environment that is close to a shop floor environment. and then we push it in our plants. So mainly in Singapore, but also elsewhere. So the technologies that we develop here can be first implemented in Singapore, but then also implemented in Germany or the US, obviously in Egypt. So just as a bit of a background, we are going, as I said, a lot more into digital. That's something that we've done historically, gathering data from our engines. That's something that are actually very familiar with data analysis and trend monitoring and gathering the data to be more informed of the situation. That's been going on in our operations center in Derby, in the UK, for a long time. Now we're trying to apply this to pretty much everything, including the manufacturing. So, as I said, this is our business. So that's just confirming what we're doing, giving you a few numbers. 13,000 engines from the UK, or 4,300 aircraft, parts. Background. So when we were flying all the time, every engine is supposed to do about 7 million miles between overhauls. So it's about to the moon and back 14. Now, if we move into the how we've applied this digital understanding and the ability to predict the fleet and how we're going to induce our plants. Now we want to actually do that through the full. We want to be able to continue using our operational support. And here on the left-hand side, you can see that one for airlines, but we also have one for our for the ships, for the marine industry. And we want to actually cover the full life cycle. So we would like to actually know how our products behave depending on how they've been manufactured, for instance. So knowing the products from end to end is very important. And to do that, we need to go more into digital manufacturing and also digital supply chain so that we've got full traceability. And then that can feed back into the design. So once we know how we manufacture them, we can feed into the design. The performance and service is giving us information about that specific design to the serial number level. And obviously with the Internet of Things, you can continue feeding the cloud with more data. So we've started to do that IoT developments. So we've got digital in service, which is already in existence, but now we've got most of our are being tracked into the shop, and we've worked with SIA here in Singapore, for instance, to and tooling. So this is now becoming very helpful because we can build that into the MRO planning. So we know that we've got the tools available, we know that the engines are there, we know that all the C checks can be done properly when the aircraft is coming in. So that's something that instead of that's what we've tried to do, taking advantage of the downturn with unfortunately the COVID impact. We tried to set up all these things in anger so that when the load comes back, we're a lot more established. So we're trying to take advantage to an extent of the fact that the load went down to build in additional things or implement things that we were struggling to find time to do. So that's what we've been concentrating on. So all these tags, the new apps to actually do the tracking, all this has been developed in the last few months. So IoT architecture, I think everybody is probably familiar of what we do. So you do decide whether you need to use existing sensors or then you need to ensure how you link them. You use the gateway, like in the Jetware or anything else, and then you stream that data and load it onto the cloud to be able to do your analysis. So we've done that also on machines. So that's an example of implementation. So in our fan blade manufacturing plant, now installed quite a few additional sensors, and we're able to stream in real time the test variable, and very quickly we can see. So now because we've done that for a few months, we know what a good blade looks like, and we know exactly the pattern that the key process variable should follow instantly, and that's what's quite encouraging actually, is that fortunately when something goes wrong, it goes wrong very quickly. It's actually very rare that the process starts very well and then goes off or goes wrong. It actually starts within minutes. So, as soon as we see, and there is quite a significant difference from what we've seen so far, which is also good. So instantly you can stop the process and check what's going wrong, and obviously save your part and ensure that there is no non-conformance. So with that pilot, we're now implementing it onto our other machines. Once you've downloaded the data, you need to use quite a bit of artificial intelligence, especially for inspection. So, if you think about what I just mentioned, you've got your infrastructure in place, you collect the data, you will decide on your sampling rate, you will decide on the platform that you want to use, you will decide where you do your analysis. Do you do it at the edge, which is close to the machine, or do you do it on the cloud? Obviously, if you do it on the cloud, you benefit from quite a lot of apps or additional analytics power to an extent that you don't have to develop yourself. However, cybersecurity is a bit of a challenge, so you need to ensure that you can actually push all your data to the cloud without any risk. So that's an assessment that every company needs to do. Historically, Rolls-Royce is very conservative, but I can see that with the how the cybersecurity is evolving, we're actually now more confident that we can push more data to the cloud. So just a few examples there of the AI solutions that we've developed. We can have a look at the microstructure to detect the alpha case in the fan blade, for instance, if there is any. We can correlate X-ray sentencing to a location later on in the process. So that's what's also very important, is once you start to download all the data, you can actually correlate different process steps. So again, a lot more informed manufacturing. Any turbine blade grain defect also could be. So that's when we do the casting. Any defect in the grain can be analyzed, which is very amazing. A few years back, we would not have thought we could do that. And we can also do in-service inspections, so sulfidations, checking that there isn't any damage in the blade. So that's for our MRO shop before we actually fit it back on the engine. We can also use that for in-service support. So, we can monitor, the SFC. So that's the fuel efficiency of our engine in service. We can predict or we can do in-service analysis. If there is any LRU, line replacement unit that should be replaced, we can also do that based on the data that we. Any compressor blade issue, for instance, we can also determine based on the image analysis whether we can go for an additional set of cycles or not. So all this is very important, but you do need to ensure that you've got the capability to download your data and you've got the right infrastructure. So to do that, we've actually used a public-private partnership in Singapore. is a collaborative approach with our research center. What we need to realize is that the chart that I've presented on the architecture, you've got your gateway, and then from the gateway you go to the cloud. Sounds very easy, very straightforward. It's actually quite. You've got greenfield machine or brownfield machines. The new machines are enabled with communication protocols that make it a lot easier. Well, you can't have only new machines. In fact, most of our plants are a few years old, at least. So we need to be able to connect all these machines as well. When some solutions you think, well, I'll just go with one brand, for instance, and then that should make it easier. That's not true either. So, systems with the same brand on them, we've had instances where it doesn't connect effectively. So a lot of people will be selling that, Industry 4.0, the solution is there, and it's already been done. I think it's still pretty challenging for quite a few people. And therefore, we have to try things. My belief is that, you have to do pilots. You have to test things in a real shop floor environment. However, you cannot do that if you have to disturb your production setup. So this collaborative approach that we have with A-STAR, so A-STAR is an agency for science, technology and research in Singapore, and they've got a research center where they've got very typical manufacturing machines. In fact, they've got pretty much all the machines that we're using also in our shop floor. Their shop floor is actually their shop floor IT system or OT system is also a little bit more open, which helps, to try some of the solutions initially without being too challenged by firewall issues and things like that. Then you can actually set everything up and understand how to protect your architecture. And then we tend to bring it in our plant once we've done that. We do have a testing facility also in Rolls-Royce in Seletar on our campus, which is exactly a replica of our shop floor, but we only test the solutions that are really challenging there before we push them into production. So this cycle that I'm mentioning here, where we identify the problem statement, we decide on which technology we're going to develop. We develop it in the research center, then we transfer it into our pre-production facility in Rolls-Royce, for instance, and then we push it into the plant. That's been extremely successful, and that's how we've managed to push so many new technologies in our facilities. So I touched on this. I just give it a bit of a reminder. So lower TRL technology maturity, in red on that chart. That's what we tend to do with Nanyang Technological University here in Singapore through our corporate lab. And they come up with the new algorithm, the AI solutions that I've just mentioned, new repair techniques for composites, for instance, and things like that. Once it reaches a sort of lab level is TRL3. On the representative component, still in a lab is TRL4. Once we get to that point, then we push it in our research centers. So in this instance, that's where I'm calling from actually today, the A-STAR Research Center. That's where we test all the solutions in representative shop floors. We debug basically everything, ensure that it can be sustainable, and then we push the solutions in our facilities as soon as it goes into 7 onwards. So 5 and 6 is pre-production, you could say, and then 7 onwards is actually in production. So a few last words on the lab. So I've the core lab. So we've got a lot of researchers, as I said, more than 100. That's the phase of the core lab that we're running. developed significant technologies, and some of the IoT solutions that are presented, self-powered sensors and all these sort of things, all this has been developed in NTU. That's an example of the programs that we're running. So electric flight, as I said, we're going more and more to sustainable power. So we've got a big electrical program. One that is actually, it goes actually from bridge to power converters and sort of energy distribution or microgrid development for the use of the power. So that's for airborne solutions, and we do have the same, as you can see there on the left. So a traditional generating solution, and then you've got microgrid and energy storage systems. So there are some of these applications for PV plants, so photovoltaic plants in Australia. The applications are also for boats, as I mentioned before, or for train. So it's understanding the energy sources, as you can see on the chart. Understand the dynamic loads that you're getting. Decide on the storage of the energy, and then coupled with AI, actually, you can decide on, depending on the mission. So if it's a boat, you can tailor the energy usage to make it the most efficient possible. So that was developed in Kuala. So when you've developed the sort of fundamentals of the technology, we then push it into our advanced remanufacturing centers. So that's where, as I said, I'm calling. So now as you can see, now it's a lot more industrial. So we've got robots, we've got 5-axis machines, we've got 3D inspection. So this was for a cleaning solution for a drum. You can see here a compressor drum. So we push then those programs so we test them. We actually make sure we've got all the repeatability that we need. We can download the data, so we can look at all the connectivity, shop floor connectivity, and everything that we need, and then we push it in our shop. One thing that is quite important, and I think I'll finish on that, those programs actually enable us to also engage a lot of SMEs. So when we started in 2017, we were working with about 3 SMEs. That you can see on the left-hand side. I'll even put the logos now on the right-hand side. In May 2019, we were at 55. I know for a fact that now we're beyond 100 people. So really, putting the money at the top together, Rolls-Royce and A-Star actually put them on it really generates an ecosystem, which is extremely powerful. It gives options and capabilities to develop new technologies, finding little gems, in those suppliers with interesting solutions for us. And that's really been enabled by this program. And actually, tomorrow we're also working with the Singapore government on an event called Slingshot, which is a sort of startup event where we are mentoring the startups, and they will go to a final, and then there will be some support from the government for them to engage on a project, with us or with other industrials. So developing this ecosystem is also very important, because that's how you encourage and spark innovation and therefore come up with new solutions. That's nearly my last slide. So yeah, those are our seniors. The technology acquisition through these partnerships have been well recognized, and that's an example of an article this year actually, where we show how we've used two out of all these SMEs to develop significant systems, and the MDs are the guys on the right hand side. I'm conscious of time. I'll push just to show a few implementations and to finish on that. the key has been to push all those solutions this year into the shop, as I said, to try and take advantage of the our facility. So from left to right, you can see new inspection systems. We're also coming up with a printing solution. So a lot of stuff that used to be manual. So the two images on the left-hand side, that's now fully automated. So, we've removed the manual intervention, but our engineers or our shop floor personnel is actually involved in other things that are more value added. So we've tried to remove the variability and the mundane activities and ensure and automate them and ensure that our guys are concentrating on more value adding activities. So on the right-hand side there was also a masking activity, and that was just before putting the blade in the etchant, and therefore it was also a HSNE concern. So automation gives you the option to also deal with this sort of things. In that sense, I can see that I'm slightly, hope this was useful and interesting. If there are any questions, I can answer.
Thank you, Luke, for that very interesting presentation. And it was indeed a comprehensive one as well. I have quite a few questions, but for the paucity of time, I'll ask just probably one or two. So the first question from the floor is, where do you see as being the role of smart manufacturing and connected factories in these COVID times?
So for us, it's been interesting actually, because we've been trying to rebalance our load, and sometimes we used to have two plants, for instance, manufacturing the same product, and we've done a level of consolidation. Now, if you don't have a digital factory, it's very difficult from one factory to see the production flow from one factory to the other. So I'm continuing to push for the digital fan blade, because some of the new developments will continue to be done by the UK, but the manufacturing of the fan blade will be consolidated in Singapore. For the guys in the UK to be able to see what's going on when you're manufacturing 6,000, 8,000 or 10,000 blades a year, you do need that digital twin. And that's something actually that became even more important when we when we had to consolidate. So before we were thinking, well, it's important because we need to understand our method of manufacture. Now it's becoming paramount, because our guys remotely will have to understand a little bit more the implication of some designs, for instance, or the implication of some manufacturing operations from 10,000 kilometers away. And realistically, as I said at the beginning, we will do a lot more remote diagnostics, remote discussions, in discussion with the experts. So a lot of people used to fly, to come and do an analysis, a value stream mapping, have a look at a machine. Now, we've done all of that digitally, because we had to continue producing. We had to continue doing everything that we had to do, and nobody flew. So nobody came this year from the UK on a, compared to a typical year where we have many visits, actually, technical visits, governance board, as I said, a lot of different things. This is now, I won't say it's gone. Maybe for exceptional reasons you would fly, but it will become very difficult to argue, well, I need to come for an audit, for instance. We've done 6 audits this year completely remotely. So it's all the more important, because some things, I think, will recover and will go back to a level of normality. Some other things will continue the way we are, because they're just a lot more efficient. So we just set up the meeting and the audits in the afternoon for Singapore. People in Europe actually wake up and do that in the morning. But if you think about the amount of money and time that you save, because coming all the way from Europe to Singapore is never, there is two days worth of traveling anyway, and all this. So I think it became a lot more important, and just so that's the very practical answer to the COVID situation. I think it just accelerated the need to understand your manufacturing solutions so that you can manufacture better. And as I said, because we're consolidating, we need to manufacture more with the same footprint. So you need to automate, you need to ensure that you've got no scrap. You need to ensure total quality and all these sort of things. And the only way you will get there is through smart manufacturing. And smart manufacturing is not necessarily Industry 4.0. I think smart manufacturing includes a level of automation. We started with Industry 3, actually nothing too new. Automate the solutions. Then when you get there and you've got a solid foundation, then you can think about Industry 4, which is more connectivity, downloading the data and things like that. I think jumping into Industry 4 if you don't have a solid foundation is not relevant.
That's right. One last question for you, Luke. You did mention about electrification of engines and supportive airframe. So we know that all electric engines are being developed. In your opinion, where do you see the kind of timeline for all electric engine and supportive airframe, everything to be put together? What's the kind of current interest level from airline operators on that?
I think there is a strong interest for sure. Both. So airlines, indeed, airframers as well. So both, the big airframers, Boeing and Airbus are working with us on this. I think all electric will be reserved for, air taxi kind of application or very short applications to start with. And that's just, my opinion. It's not, Rolls-Royce. I'm not mentioning anything. It's just what I think, and I may not be the best person to answer the question, but in my opinion, I think short flights, regional flights, or air taxi solutions that may go full electric, because you will have specific setups that are going to be designed, charging station like air taxi ports or things like that. So that will, you will build a new infrastructure and you'll be able to use that to convert or to retrofit all the existing airframes for long haul or bigger airframes or bigger amount of passengers. I think it will take a little while, and I think it will be hybrid in the first place. So we will have a level of electrification, but we won't take the fuel away initially, I think, for those. And we may go actually more towards sustainable aviation fuels, which gives you much better fuel efficiency. So I think there will be a hybrid of SAF, so sustainable aviation fuels, and electrical power plus traditional fuels for long-haul flights anyway. And that requires a bit less retrofit, if you think about it, of all the existing airport infrastructures. So I think that will be a slower transition. So there will be a sort of breakthrough, and I'll be interested to see what Volocopter say later on. I think for those short flights and specific applications, it will be quick, maybe 2 to 5 years, and it will be in place. For the long haul and traditional airframes, I think it will take a bit longer. Even fuel cells, I mean, if you think beyond the challenge of storing the hydrogen, retrofitting the airports and all this will actually demand quite a bit of investment. So I think it will take longer. But it's definitely going to happen. We should try to see look at the positives of this COVID, pandemic. I think people realize that, green and sustainability, green flight and all these sort of things will become big on the agenda. So, I think the initiative to have green power is becoming more and more important. So it will definitely happen. And again, I think the same way COVID accelerated some digital aspects or digital upgrades, I think COVID accelerated the green mindset, which is good. Definitely one positive that we can take from that.
Just a very quick one with one more question, Luke. Because today we are having this KLIABC event. We heard a lot from you about A-Star and NTU and the work that Rolls-Royce is doing in Singapore. What about the possibility of a cooperation between education and training centers beyond Singapore? Can you throw some light of any ongoing dialogues on that?
Yeah. So before early this year, I was supposed to go to KL actually to discuss how we could do collaboration. We've got UMW there, obviously, a very strong supplier of ours. And there were discussions because there is a center also with Airbus. So there were discussions, but unfortunately this stopped purely because I think to engage into new partnership, I think there is a level of face-to-face that is required. And therefore, I hope that in the near future we can start this again. So I think the answer is yes, because this model works. This model of partnership also works in fact, he sort of came from the UK, to be fair. University of Sheffield developed the first Advanced Manufacturing Research Center, so AMRC. And A-Star saw that, and they were very keen to educate, and that's how ARTC was born. The center where I'm sitting now. So we are very open to new partnerships, and I think there is definitely the intention to explore further with Malaysia. So hopefully, when the border is open, we can quickly come back to KL, or people can come down to see us, and we can reinvigorate this.
Thank you so much, Luke, for answering those questions. I'll let you go for now, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Rich. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Our next presenter is also going to be from the industry behemoths, I would say, and it is going to be a very interesting presentation coming from one of the largest aircraft integrators. Boeing has been an industry leader. At the same time, there has been many developments at their end in the past 2 years. We will be hearing from Amin Benkirani, Senior Airline Market Analyst from Boeing Commercial Airplanes, and he will be speaking on understanding the challenges and opportunities facing aerospace today. Over to you, Amin.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. I am still unable to share my PDF. I don't know if Carla is on the line. If you can help me or give me access to share my presentation, please. All right. I think we're good now.
Yes, we can see your screen, Amin.
Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Good morning to you all in Asia, and good evening to anybody on the call here in the USA, like I am in Seattle. What I want to do today is share with you our analysis of the industry thus far, taking into account the pandemic that has rocked our industry, and what our thinking is for how the market is going to evolve, both in the short term and in the long term. Thank you again. Have a great day, everybody.
Let me tell you a little bit about our next presentation. So we have not one presenter, but two very senior team members in respective companies who are providing the much needed critical infrastructure support to the aerospace industry. In many countries, such as Malaysia and Singapore, these aerospace hubs are evolving, and they continue to be a major manufacturing and MRO hubs supported by the infrastructure. We were fortunate to work on quite a few in the ASEAN region on these aerospace roadmap and infrastructure. So it would be interesting to hear back from these captains of the industry who are steering the role of infrastructure for aerospace. Please allow me to welcome our first presenter, Mr. Randhir Singh, General Manager, Malaysia Airports Holding Berhad, followed by Mr. Raymond Lam from Bowsprit Projects. Mr. Randhir Singh will be speaking on harnessing the winds of change in a post-COVID-19 world. Over to you, Randhir.
Thank you, Amartya. It's good meeting you, even though it's virtually after quite some time. Hope you're doing well.
Same here. Thank you, Ranjit.
Hi, Raymond.
Hi, Ranjit.
Hi.
Yeah.
Great. So maybe I'll get straight to the point. So my name is Ranjil. I lead the off-terminal real estate development. And one of that pillar of the real estate development is really on the aerospace and aviation infrastructure and facilities, which includes both airside and landside. So without further ado, maybe I'll just start my presentation. Okay, trust is visible, representation.
It is, thank you.
Great. Okay, so just a quick overview of Malaysia airports. We are an operator of 39 airports in Malaysia. In fact, all airports except for the one in Johor, down south. And these airports range from everything being the top-notch airline, right to domestic airports, as well as smallish rural airfields. We have over 120 carriers that we serve. We have also hosted over 140 million passengers in 2019 and carried over 1 million tons of cargo. We are one of the largest airport operator groups, as well as KLIA being the top busiest airport in the world in terms of international traffic. And we are consistently, typically within the top 10 to 15 in terms of airport service quality. Now, all this that I shared is, of course, pre-COVID. A lot of these numbers, especially when it comes to passenger numbers, carriers, our market capitalization, all of this has taken a hit during the COVID, which we view as an anomaly. And normally that would probably be for a year or two before we start coming back to a growth forecast. So a question could be, why is an airport operator here talking about aerospace real estate and aerospace infrastructure? A very simple explanation to that is because as it is in our airports, we are already the largest ecosystem provider in Malaysia for the aerospace ecosystem. We host 30% of Malaysia's aerospace players at our airports, majorly in KLIA, as well as Subang Airport. Subang Airport was the site of the former international airport back in the 80s and 90s. So these players that we host include everything from the OEMs such as Airbus, Tier 1s and Tier 2s, aero manufacturers, third-party MROs, as well as human capital and training institutions. And what we find to be a very key point in growing or expanding this ecosystem is really close collaboration that we have, being a government-linked company as well, with the government agencies, as well as investment promotion arms, as well as training agencies and policy makers and the likes. So we found that this collaboration has yielded a lot of benefits for us, as for our tenants, our operators, our players in our ecosystem. Most of my presentation, the next couple of slides, as well as you would see from Raymond, would be really focused on Subang Airport. Subang Airport today is really the most mature aerospace community in Malaysia, and it is a aerospace community that is set within a highly urbanized area with a lot of amenities within the city sort of a development. What you would see here is basically we occupy over 1,000 acres of land. Our operators, our tenant operators, yield revenues up to beyond $2 billion annually. We have all the presence of the top global players. We created about over 3,000 jobs high-skilled jobs as well, blue collar, white collar, largely local Malaysian and a few foreign. So this slide gives you a little bit of an overview of how Subang Airport looks from a bird's eye view perspective. You would see color codes that links or to that indicates land side as well as air side. Air side areas are typically as areas within security zone that fronts the runways and taxiways and all that. The land side are typically more public. And you would see on the red land side, Subang Aerotech Park. That is basically a development for aerospace companies. And that is a development that we have gone into a joint venture partnership with BP, which is Boston Projects from Singapore. Raymond would touch a little bit more on this right after my slide presentation. The future vision as we move towards our development of Subang Airport, which is really what we say when we talk about the winds of change. It is really about taking a piece of a piece of old infrastructure and regenerating it, making it fit for purpose for business aviation as well as the aerospace ecosystem. We intend to build on what we have today, expand on that, and also improve not just look and feel, but also improve in terms of what we provide to the ecosystem, in terms of making it a safe, reliable infrastructure, green infrastructure. We understand that with the lights of the fourth industrial revolution coming on, there's a need for high-speed broadband networks and all that, and all of these are being planned and to be rolled out as part of the Subang Airport regeneration program. With this, we expect to actually bring to fore over 2 million square feet of additional nettable area on the air side, which is typically premium and of high demand. What we see today across a lot of airports is basically there is a sort of a constraint in available nettable airside infrastructure facilities to be leased out by MRO players and the likes. A snapshot of what we would see as an ultimate goal or ultimate aim of Subang Airport regeneration within the next 10 to 15 years. First, of course, Subang Aerotech Park, it's already in development stage. It's, in fact, I would say, concluded its infrastructure development, and right now we are ready to go to market, ready to undertake build-to-suit facilities for tenants. We already have one launch tenant, which is Senior Aerospace. And what we would see in this Aerotech Park is over 2.6 million square feet of infra-ready landside real estate. So again, I emphasize that this is already ready infrastructure. It is already going to market. Hence why this is today. Similarly, if you go a little bit lower, below the bar, in the next 12 to 18 months, we are already in advanced talks to develop about 350,000 square feet of a large-scale hangar and facility for a business aviation OEM-owned MRO. So that would position Subang for the first time ever as an MRO for business aviation that is also anchored by OEMs. We see that in Seletar. We have yet to see that in Subang, and this would then make the change for the first time. And I think that provides the right signal out to the market. Within the next 3 years, we would be looking to unlock additional space, additional area, especially on the air side, in addition to the Subang Aerotech Park. What we would see is a slight different move away from what the current model that we've got, which is basically a basic land lease, to a model where we would, along with our development partners, undertake development of facilities with dedicated apron space for hangarage as well as MRO purpose. This could be either built-to-suit facilities or typically ready-built hangars, which would probably be more relevant to slightly smaller scaled SME kind of hangarage use. We will also be looking at establishing certain facilities or services common for MRO, such as a ground runway, engine ground runway. Unfortunately, today we don't have one that is dedicated. It's really makeshift, and we will turn this around. Additionally, we will also see creation of more short and long-term parking bays for aircraft and all that, to truly make this into a regional hub for business aviation. What you would also see, which is going to be fairly unique to the community within Subang Airport, is really a community-centric approach in our development. So one of the things you would see is basically activation points in the form of multi-story car parks with public amenities, with F&B, with offices, as well as sporting and recreational sites such as futsalls and all that. And all these activation centers would be within a 500 to 600 meter walking distance, covered walking distance to their operations base. So you would see a lot more, a much enhanced work play, work recreational kind of a feel of an environment for the workforce within Subang. So ultimately, we would see by the end of the 2030s, 4 million square feet of prime real estate with dedicated apron on the air side for MROs, regional aircrafts, helicopters, as well as business aviation, and a total of 29 dedicated short-term and long-term aircraft parking bays, largely fitted for the business aviation market. So, in short, why Subang Airport? I mean, as I mentioned earlier, it's the most mature ecosystem within Malaysia. It's established with established infrastructure only to be made better. There's a conducive aviation ecosystem recognized in terms of authority standards. We have got competitive charges as well as a cost profile. We are also well connected within the ASEAN region. We have got the readiness in terms of human capital and access to skilled workforce. There are over 53 aviation education training providers surrounding Subang, as well as a few right in Subang itself. There's a modern infrastructure, as well as the necessary incentives and facilitation, given the fact also that the Malaysian government, regardless of which government is in place, we have seen a consistent focus on aerospace across all the governments that's coming. So I think that provides a quick brief of Subang. I will probably hand over to Raymond for his next session, and then we will take on some Q&As. Thank you.
Thank you, Renu. Let me share my slide. Yep. Do you see my slide?
Yes, sir, we can see you.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. So I will, DP Aerotech is the joint venture between Balsec Projects and also Malaysia Airport, and we are you can consider us as the joint developer, right, of this aerospace park, Subang Aerotech Park, right? A moment, the slides are not flipping. Yeah, there you go. Right. I think Brand Hill did a very good introduction of Subang Aerotech Park. So I think I'll just briefly mention on this slide, unless you have any questions, you can ask us later, right? So Subang being the international airport for KL in the 80s and the 90s, right? It's centrally located. If you look at the location itself, it's near all the major townships. You can see Shah Alam. It's right next to Shah Alam, and it's near all the major highways that will connecting to the Port Klang and so on, right? So being located at the Subang Aerotech Park, certainly in terms of connectivity, is not an issue. In terms of hiring of employees and so on, certainly is not an issue, right? So we would like to capitalize on that to actually promote the Malaysia aerospace market. This will dovetail the Subang plans that Renhill has just presented, right? A few items that actually BP brings to the table, which I think may be of interest to SMEs and also the larger companies, right? The Subang Aerotech certainly, other than being centrally located, right, has access to the joint venture partners' resource, right? So from Balstep projects, we provide a real estate solutions, right, to facility management end to end, everything from design and planning to digital modeling to the construction and construction management. And if the clients are sophisticated enough, we can even do a digital twin, smart user experience, asset management, and facility management and asset enhancement. As the facility grows, we can assist the end users in the entire process. And obviously from MAHB angle, right, they are the airport operators. We are always at the forefront to undertake the feedback of the end users, how we can actually improve the end user experience, how we can help assist the end user improve their businesses. We'll take all those feedback as and when we develop the master plan and future master plans of the city airport, right? The end users themselves are facing a lot of disruption, right? I just want to cite some often cited examples, like for example, especially the digital disruption, like if you are in the air logistics, right? There's a company called Flex that has been transforming warehousing logistics around the world, right? This is a startup, it's a new startup. There's also another company called Postmates, you can Google them. They're also transforming all the last mile logistics around the world, right? And they are the unicorns that have been up and coming, right? And most recently, I believe Postmates has been acquired, right, by another big company because a lot of companies are transforming themselves, right? So the end users themselves are facing digital disruptions. So us as a facility provider to support the businesses of end users ourselves has to be progressive, right? So we offer various solutions to assist our end users on their digital journey. So for example, the automation, we talk about Industrial 4.0, we talk about automation, we talk about artificial intelligence, robotics, IoT, data analytics, and last but not least is the sustainability solutions that we offer our end users as part of the solutions to their facilities. So whenever end user comes to us, we will actually try to understand their business, and we will do a walkthrough. Whether it is a manufacturing, we will do a walkthrough in their manufacturing processes. We do a walkthrough of how their employees come to the plant to walk through the entire process. We will do a walkthrough of their customers to make sure that the facilities are suitable, and we will also try to understand their corporate sustainability model, right? So if they want to have a zero energy, zero carbon footprint facility, we will also support that, right? Now, with this, I think certainly we will be able to support the end users to be able to achieve their goals, to be able to locate in a highly competitive environment within the Southeast Asian market to improve their business, right? So maybe I'll just dwell a bit into the concept, the real type of real estate solution. Personally, I always like to share, when we talk about Industrial 4.0, it's always a very elusive topic, right? And it's very difficult to articulate to a lot of clients. I think previous presenters before us, they talk about various automation, artificial intelligence, data analytics that they embark on, and those are fantastic initiatives, right? So when we talk to our clients, some of the smaller clients especially, smaller end users, it gets a bit elusive when we talk about Industrial 4.0. They always ask us to say that, what are other guys doing? What are other companies doing in terms of Industrial 4.0? I always give an example, right? And this is a very easily understood example, which is the elevator example, right? If you travel back about 50 years ago, right? The lowest floor of a building, whether it's residential or commercial, is actually the most expensive, right? Mostly in the residential, right? Why? Because there wasn't an elevator, right? And the highest floor is actually the cheapest because you've got to actually walk all the way up, right? But by installing the elevator, and it actually transformed the entire residential market, right? So the highest floor is most expensive now, which is the penthouse, right? So similarly, I think there are a lot of technologies out there that's able to transform the business. Most of them, or some of them may not be quite quantifiable at this point in time, but eventually it will be seen as a necessary technology to be incorporated into the business. Nowadays, when you build a building, you don't think twice about incorporating an elevator. 50 years ago, you've got to put up a business case, right? So that's just a sidetrack a bit, right? So at Subang Aerotech Park, because of this joint venture and the foresight of Malaysia Airports to put this joint venture and this initiative together, we are able to offer to end users that's coming in, especially to the Malaysia Aerospace market, custom-built facilities, right? That you talk about property management, whether it's a smart application, defect management, and so on, right, to assist them in their business. Right? So in the next few slides, I'll just show you some location over here. If you can see my pointer over here. Can you see my pointer? Okay, so this is the Subang Aerotech Park. These are some of the built-to-suit facilities, right? So that we have, right? This is about 34 acres, right? This is Senior Aerospace, which is the very first tenant in the Subang Aerotech Park, right? The remaining facilities can build up to about 1.1 million square feet, right? And obviously over here is the industrial.
Sorry, Raymond, perhaps if you could just, I don't think your screen is in full screen mode.
Oh, yeah. Are you seeing the presenter mode or?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I thought you're looking at the full screen mode. Why don't I exit the presenter mode? I think the picture should be bigger. I think this is probably a bit bigger. I do not know why I'm not showing the full screen mode. Are you seeing this now?
Yes, I see this. It's not full screen, but it is bigger than before.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, I apologize for that. I thought you were looking at the full screen and I'm looking at the presenter mode. Okay. So if you look at this, right, so this is the Aerotech Park, and this is a earmark for logistics, right? So you have about 400,000 square feet of logistics facilities here. That's possible. And I'll just move on to the next slide. Okay, so these are some of the, let me move this up, ready-built factories, right, that we have ready, right? Each of them is about 500 meters square that you can actually accommodate for smaller companies that can come here if they want to do some sort of a MRO, some sort of a light manufacturing. They can certainly undertake some of these facilities over here, and thereafter they can expand when their business grows into larger build-to-suit facilities over here, right? And if I were to change the view slightly, right? So over here are the ready-built factories, right? So we expect to have 1, 2, about 3 build-to-suit facilities. There's already a potential build-to-suit clients over here and the future BTS over here. And there's here is the future aviation logistics, right? Yeah. So as a development partnership, we are pretty flexible. Some of the tenants will say that, look, I do not want to own the facility. I just want to pay a rental. The BT Aerospace, the joint venture will actually custom build the entire facility for the client and sign a long-term lease, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We're pretty flexible. Alternatively, if some business, the end users comes in and says that, look, eventually I would like to have an ownership of the facility, that's not an issue as well, right? We are able to provide certain options, whether to purchase at certain point in time, whether is it 5 years or 10 years down the road. Certainly, these are some of the options, and we are also open. If the end user says that, look, I'd like to have some exposure to the real estate, but I do not want to have all my capital to lock in, we are also flexible on that in that respect. All right. Yeah. So that kind of ends my presentation. Maybe we can move on to the Q&A.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. We have a couple of questions here. I did like, this is for Mr. Raymond Lung, and it was very interesting to hear about the elevator example, which became a disruptor to the infrastructure industry. So, in your opinion, we see so many objects that have become now service. Example, phone as a service, car as a service. What do you see as a developer, the future of infrastructure in terms of value-added services? Can infrastructure be a service? And in that way, what are your thoughts on that, please?
I think that's a very good question. And we have, as a developer for industrial facilities, we always think hard to say what is coming up next in the industrial space. Because the end user's requirement will eventually filter down into their facilities requirements, because that will filter into their business requirements, facilities requirements, and that will be filtered down into the demand on us. And in fact, as developer ourselves, for industrial facilities, we would like to be in a position to be able to advise our client to say, have you thought about this? You know, this is the latest technology, which I guess will be able to help your business in a certain way, right? And just like what you mentioned, we look at infrastructure as a service as a developer, because we are leasing, doing a build to suit. It is naturally an infrastructure as a service, right? So when we talk to our clients, for example, and they say that, look, we have a goal. All our facilities around the world have to be zero carbon footprint, for example. We will actually custom design the entire facility to be zero carbon footprint. Whether be it that we tap on solar, whether be it tap on water harvesting, daylight harvesting, We use very, very energy efficient chillers, right? So we are open to all these technologies, and we put all these technologies together for our clients. So we are not just a developer for building. We are just not just a builder for as in construction. We are a solutions provider, right? So and that's the reason why we have to understand what IoT does as well. I mean, I'll give you an example. Last year, we completed a project with Bolloré. They're one of the largest aerospace logistics provider as well. And their building is a super low energy building in Singapore, and they require, there's a lot of IoT. You can go to the YouTube, you just Google Bolloré Blue Hub, right? They'll be able to show you the entire video. They have sorters and conveyors, and the conveyors is automated 43 meters high conveyors throughout the entire building, right? So these are the kind of facilities that we deliver to our end users, and we try to understand what their requirements are, and when we and that is the kind of solutions we are bringing into the Malaysia Aerospace Subang Aerotech Park.
Thank you, Mr. Lam. You very well resonated on the same, that now Boxed projects and the share port holdings Parag are both moving towards infrastructure and service. That's very interesting to hear. One question to you, Randall. I had the good fortune of seeing the Subang rejuvenation plan, being a little bit part of it. And so what next? I mean, aerospace, manufacturing, business aviation. What are your thoughts on urban aerial mobility? Can Subang be a hub for that?
Thank you for that question, Amadya. Yes, if I could share that you and your team were indeed part of the early creation of the Subang regeneration, and I recall even then we had some discussions along this topic that you just raised. So interestingly, we are looking at Subang to also be able to play a role in urban air mobility. I, for one, am a firm believer that it is not a matter of if, but rather a matter of when. And when this is scaled and when this is actually taking place. So, and I feel Subang has certain unique position and a unique play along the lines of the ecosystems of what a UAM services would be about. So, for example, you heard of the Subang Aerotech Park. So the Subang Aerotech Park could really serve as a center point for manufacturing and assembly of such vehicles, of such devices that are being built. So you see that part of the component value chain that can be taken care of within Subang. The other part of the value chain is definitely the R&D, the research and technology, the testing, the research and testing. So even here we are able to then facilitate that sort of process. The third part, of course, is the infrastructure in order to operationalize UAM, meaning those aircopters, air taxis, basically coming, landing, taking off, and also transporting of people using this air taxis, if you will. So again here, what we are looking at is actually ensuring that the infrastructure provides such locations, such sites that allow for such a vehicle, UAV, to be able to operate from, whether it be on the rooftop of some of our terminals or a dedicated space, similar to what you see today as a helipad center. We could foresee, or rather envision, a future where business aviation passengers could fly from New York and then pick up a UAM service right into the city center, and that would be operated at a premium service. So these are the things that we are also envisioning. In fact, later this week, Interestingly, we are having a small mini workshop with such players to be able to stress test some of our assumptions in our infrastructure plans to ensure that we have that kind of flexibility accorded for such players. Having said that though, I do not see Subang to be a major hub for the operations of the UAM, simply because we need to be cognizant that priority is it's still an airport. We still want to see the points of business and from. So it should play a role in such a way that, as I mentioned, the value chain of research and testing, assembly, manufacturing, as well as some scale of operations to serve our passengers, as opposed to a large-scale city hub for where people within the suburban and urban areas, surrounding areas, come, take air taxis and go into other areas. I do not foresee that for Subang because I think that would interfere in the core operations or core purpose of the airport. But by and large, yes, there's definitely a role to play for us.
Thank you, Randall. Thank you, Mr. Raymond Lund. Very interesting thoughts, how infrastructure is a centerpiece of the aerospace ecosystem. I'll have to let both of you go. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker today is moving from an automotive background to aerospace background. I would like to welcome Mr. Hisham Samad. He will be speaking on behalf of UMW M&E Division. He has been the General Manager at UMW and the Project Manager for UMW Aerospace. Please welcome Mr. Hisham Samad. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to all the participants. I think with that delay, I would like to share our presentation. Okay, so UMW. I think we start with the presentation with the video. I hope it went well. This actually summarizes what UMW over here. We are a 100-year-old company and we started in Singapore. Okay, that's more or less summarize what the history of UNW is. So we started in Singapore in 1970, and today we are 103 years old. UNW today is more or less a government control company. PNB, EPF, and QUAP. PNB is the unit trust, and EPF and QUAP is the pension and also certain fund for employers. Own about 70% of UNW. As of October, we have a market capitalization of 3 billion. You can see the shareholding. EPF still own about 13% of the UNW, and PNB is about. Our businesses in UNW, in Malaysia, generally, if you ask UNW, people will say Toyota. But actually, we are more than Toyota. We have 3 core businesses: automotive, equipment, and manufacturing. We have about 80,000 employees and operating in 70 countries. In 70 companies in each country. We are more active, of course, in Southeast Asia. We have operation in Myanmar, Vietnam, and we also have operation companies in 2 regions. The annual revenue of UNW is about 10 billion. The first of the division is actually automotive division, most famous one. Other than Toyota, some people know that actually Kuala, the second national car, is also part of UNW. We are the major shareholder at that age, as well as Texas. The second core business is the equipment division. We are, for example, the distributor for Toyota Holdings in Malaysia, and also Komatsu Limited. So our relationship with the Japanese OEMs are pretty strong and goes all the way to the United States. Manufacturing and engineering has 3 major businesses. One of them is Limited, and also part. This business has been with us for like 40 years. And now we adding aerospace to one of our businesses in manufacturing engineering. And we tell you later when we started. It has changed 2015 when we signed the contract with Aerospace. Manufacturing has been long with UNW. We started in 1968 when we started the production of Toyota cars in Malaysia. And then over the years, we have grown the businesses in the 70s as an assembler. In the 80s, we have a proper JV with Toyota. In the 1990s, we have invested into Kuala. We started investment in second national car in 1994 with the plant and also in the operation. We have then it was 2000 and 2010 where we have started the distribution of access, and in 2019 in the new factory of Toyota assembly plant in Bukit Raja Club that started operation. So our experience in manufacturing, not just the assembly of cars, also components. In total, we have about 11 manufacturing companies in UNW. Moving into aerospace, from automotive to aerospace, obviously the first one is that this is in line with the mission to become the number 1 aerospace division. This is the promoted industry and not far off from what we have done before. Of course, products are different, but manufacturing. So we started in aero manufacturing as our first foray into the space. Also, the opportunity came along to become one of the tier 1 for Rolls-Royce engine manufacturing. Aerospace is also an entry point for HBM. HBM stands for high value manufacturing. So our foray into aerospace was not the only industries we want to come in. We also looking at high value manufacturing as our angle. So from aerospace, we're looking at industrial automation, advanced healthcare, there is energy sector, and beyond. So this is a step change in engineering capabilities. We have, as I said before, we have always been in manufacturing. So it's a step where this time instead of assembly services or mass production, specialty making, where even there's a step change in human capital in engineering capabilities. Together with the aerospace manufacturing, KLIABC also developed KLIABC HBM Park, located in Serena. If you notice in the picture, corridor was just south of our park. This, in terms of connectivity, was okay. It was pretty good. Where if you look at the distances to all the major centers, including KLIA, and it was most importantly it was linked to the railway road as well as the highway. This HBM Park is launched in 3 phases. The site is about 900 acres. We are now on the phase 1, and there are 3 phases over 10 years. Phase 1, of course, the standard was actually Aerospace. We have fulfilled about half of the phase 1 already, and in 2 years' time, we will achieve the second phase. You can see from the picture that corridor was just south of the Aerospace, at the right side of the picture. The key concept and features of the HBM Park, this is a managed industrial park with multi-tiered security. Environmental is big in the design of the park. So we're looking at green solutions like solar, like wind water harvesting, and we are looking at also reclaim waters as not just for green, but also as a possible cost down to the park tenants. Of course, other than new tenants, we are moving our UNW cluster from Shah Alam to Serenda, and there will be a business support center established for the park. For UNW Aerospace, it's a pretty fast project for us. Of course, this is our first foray into aerospace. We got a lot of help from Rolls-Royce and also from the government, the local government, and also the federal government. We signed a contract in August 2015. We start recruiting immediately after the signing in November 2015. We complete the capability development center. We cannot send our people to UK due to some union issues, so we bring UK to us, so to speak. So the capability development center completed in July 2016, and the main facility completed in December 2016. So this is a pretty fast project. We started the installation of major equipment for phase 1 in 2017. By April, we are ready for manufacturing. Of course, the capability, the certification will take another 7 to 8 months. And we have our first delivery to Singapore, our first article to Singapore in November 2017. So from signing of the contract to deliver the first unit in 27 months. There's another video there. This is the layout of the main factory. The total land for the factory is actually 30 acres, so we have room for expansion. The build-up area itself is 4.3 acres. We have an investment of about 700 million ringgit. The total employees, the direct employees is 160. Total, we are looking at about 200. This is the paperless modern factory. It's a temperature control, and it employs about 200 people. And there are 4 main processes. One is the hard metal machining. We have assembly processes, welding processes, and also NDPs that cover this building. If you look at the capabilities developed, obviously the titanium machining, and very large titanium machining, not as a small one. They are complex assemblies, of course, and of course the factory has achieved aerospace certification like AS 9100 and NACAP. We also have 22 aerospace training developed for this facilities, for this project. The factory is installed with Industry 4.0 technologies, MES, PLM, ERPs. Generally, these are paperless. We got some recognition from Rolls-Royce. Obviously, this is one their fastest project from signed contract to delivery. In 2018, we are the winner of the Trusted to Deliver Excellence Award by Rolls-Royce. I think that's the end of my presentation. Please, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Saw. That was a really interesting presentation, very insightful. How an automotive player moved from automotive to aerospace. One question that I would like to ask is, you have had a great feat of success not only in entering the aerospace value chain, but also in forging the relationship with none other but Rolls-Royce. How did this journey begin, and how did you finally achieve that? And what was the biggest hurdle in entering the value chain of aerospace? Example, was it in the training, certification, safety protocols, audits, employee culture? There are many barriers to aerospace industry as when other industry participants want to enter it. So what was that, and how did you resolve it in case of BMW?
Okay, our engagement with Rolls-Royce started in 2014 when we were looking at suppliers. In the beginning, we didn't look into Frankcase, we were actually something else. But as we go along, aerospace the Frankcase opportunity come up, and we think that was a good one because it is as an entry to become a first year was actually a pretty good opportunity. The difference between automotive, well, in terms of manufacturing, it's not so much different, but you have to change. We have to change a completely, not exactly completely new, but the aerospace industry has its own unique requirement. The safety, the compliance is actually one step above from automotive. Of course, in today, if you look at today's requirement by Rolls-Royce or all other aerospace OEM, some of the requirements actually mimic from what we have seen. We have mastered already in automotive. For example, the Toyota manufacturing system, the VSM or TPS for others, and also some of the requirements for efficiency. These are like APQP. These are something that we have been looking at, become a part of our life for like 30 years. Of course, when you enter the aerospace industry, you just carry what you know, but you have to learn the new things. The challenge generally is manpower, because ultimately these are the people who run the machines and run the processes. So we mix and match. So we cannot have 100% from automotive. That will not bring the culture. So we have to hire surgically a few, maybe about 30-35% people, the first original team are from aerospace, to make sure that a group of the people were already on par with the requirement of aerospace. They are very familiar with it. They become their culture already, and they are just reformed. Of course, strict adherence and a lot of programs to understanding. One of the things that I like to put is we put in the wall. In aerospace, making a mistake is not a crime, but hiding a mistake is is a crime. Okay, so the way that you treat when people make mistakes and how you solve the problem, you cannot put SWAT things under the carpet. It has to be straightforward. It has to be up. You have to be honest about what you're doing. Integrity is very high in aerospace.
Thank you, Mr. Isham. Very insightful and really a success story for Malaysia as well, integrating to the global aerospace value chain. Thanks for your time, sir. I'll have to let you go for now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Our next presenter is also from the aerospace manufacturing background, one of the tier 1 suppliers from Spirit Aerosystems Malaysia. Our speaker is Mr. Zul Muhammad, Senior Operations Director and GM from Spirit Aerosystems Malaysia. He will be speaking on aerospace manufacturing in Malaysia, working with the OEMs to maintain stability and growth. It is a huge success for Malaysia again. Please welcome Mr. Zul. Over to you, sir.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right, good, thank you. Again, my name is Zulkarnain Muhammad. I'm the Senior Director Operations and GM for Spirit Aerosystems in Malaysia, in Subang. You see my factory was shown by Rand just now, just right beside what they were showing just now. So, hang on. So what I'll do today is just giving you an overview of the Malaysian aerospace manufacturing, not particularly in Spirit. I think just going to overview. I'm fortunate enough to be working in the Malaysian aerospace for the last 32 years. So again, seen in terms of manufacturing, started from practically from zero up to the current situation that we have right now. So what I'll talk about is just an overview in terms of Malaysian aerospace manufacturing, the impact that we have on the COVID-19 at this point in time, working with the OEMs going forward. Again, what I'll talk about is in general terms. We don't have anything in specifics at this point of time. We still, I think people are still working through that process. So to start off, Malaysian aerospace manufacturing practically started in the early 1990s. Previous to that, we were running an airline, and we were mostly servicing aircrafts through Malaysian Airlines, and at that point in time, the Air Force through Aerot prior to the 1990s. So in the 1990s, we started, SME Aerospace started with the first contract on pylons for the fighter Hawk, and that's when it started. And in the early 1990s, also the government started to look into the aerospace manufacturing with the introduction of the first aircraft project, which is a general aviation aircraft called Eagle aircraft. And later it was followed by two more aircraft programs, which is the MD3 Aero 3 and also the Lance Air aircraft. But what it introduced us is the whole spectrum of manufacturing for aircraft. We know it's a small aircraft, but the whole work is, we've got involved in everything, starting from design, prototyping, tooling, manufacturing, testing, certifications, and also the steady state manufacturing. So it gave us that experience. So, and it introduced us to both metallics and also composites aerostructures. So that's a very good introduction. So we started off with the commercial aircraft manufacturing in 1999 when CTRM was awarded with the A300 fixed trailing edge. So again, that launches into the commercial aircraft business. So from then on, we have grown so much right now. We've got nearly 100 aerospace manufacturing companies now. And last year, 2019, we generated about 6 billion ringgit revenue. So in terms of the growth for Spirit Aerosystem, Spirit was established in 2007, but factory started manufacturing and delivering in 2009. Since then, we have delivered nearly 5,000 chipsets for the A320. We've delivered 500 chipsets of A350, the root entry fairings and J-panels. We've delivered nearly 900 plus fixed leading edge for the 787. We've just started on the 737. So we've delivered only about 150 sets of the doors for the 737. So Malaysian aerospace industry is working for both Airbus and Boeing, namely Airbus A320, Airbus A380 previously before it stopped, the Airbus A400M military, Airbus A350. Now we're working also with Boeing in terms of 787 and 737. Certain parts of 777 was produced here before. So we've got a good mix of products from both Airbus and Boeing. So the companies have grown, like for Tier 1 Spirit. We have recorded our first 1 billion ringgit revenue in 2018. And also by 2019, we have recorded about 1.3 billion ringgit revenue. But because of the COVID, we have gone down by nearly 30-40%. So if you look at that, leading to that COVID-19 impact to the industry, If you look at the talk by the Boeing representative just now in marketing, saying that there's cancellations and deferments of deliveries, which impacted them. Production rate has reduced by 40% on average. Single aisle is slightly better than the twin aisle. And the projection at this point in time is looking at rate to return to pre-COVID maybe in 3-4 years' time, according to the latest projections. Again, it all depends on whether the passengers will fly again the aircraft. So hopefully that's coming soon with the announcement of the vaccine processes. So the Malaysian industry went through these phases, I guess, to keep it simple. When the lockdown orders were given in March 2020, I think there was a lot of uncertainties. We were asked to shut down factory, and we were a bit tied down because we are a global supply chain. We are involved in the global supply chain, and both at that point in time, Airbus and Boeing is not stopping. They're still working to that rate. So we worked very, very hard with help of Maya and also the government to open up the industry again. Like Dr. Syazmin announced this morning, aerospace became the first industry to open up other than the essentials. So we managed to start our factory after maybe 2 weeks of the shutdown, but with very strict conditions, with 50% of the capacity. But we managed to to, I think the most important thing is not to stop Boeing and Airbus because of the lockdown. So we managed to keep it going and continue. So with that, after that, Boeing and both OEMs started to think about, or started to announce rate reductions, and how do we react to it? How can we continue? Do we have enough resources? Do we have enough supplies, or do we have our supply chain to be healthy? If we continue, can we sustain? Those are the questions that comes up. We were again looking at, and again during that early days, we were not sure what's the future looks like at that point of time. I think by April, by May, things has calmed down a bit. We start to understand the situation better. I think at that point in time, we started to look at, okay, we know aerospace industry will survive, but when and for how long we have to maintain this level of production. We have the confidence in industry, but we do have to look at how do we continue with the business. We have to review what we have and looking at what size do we need going forward in the future. By September, I guess, September, October, I think the picture got a lot clearer. So we know what we need to be doing, what do we need to do. We've done the reconsolidation of the business. We've looked at what we can do and how to sustain and how do we go forward. Yeah. As per the Boeing projection just now, this is what we see. We see there's still healthy orders coming through, but it will take time. From the calculation that Boeing showed just now, there is an order of about 43,000 over the next 20 years, but only 40% of that is going to be delivered in the next 10 years. So we do have the capacity because we have built it over the years. Pre-COVID, for example, we were doing rate 60, rate 63 for Airbus and rate 57 for the 737 for Boeing. Airbus is for the A320 for single aisles. So we have that capacity and we have that kind of resources available. So we have to bring it down to nearly 40% down. So we have that much capacity available. We have skills available. So the issue or the projection shows that we have to keep it level for a couple of years. Next year will be flat and then start moving up again, maybe by Q3, Q4. So the question is, what do we do with the capacity and what do we do with the excess people around? Big question is whether the industry can bounce back. Me, as an aerospace guy, I'm very confident about this industry. We know the resiliency of the industry, shown time and time again. When we had all the world events, like the Gulf War, SARS, the MERS, the financial meltdown, it always comes back. But this time around, it does hit us a lot more harder than previously. Me being optimist, I'm saying that air travel is taking a break right now. It will bounce back as always. Once we have the vaccines or the resolutions to the pandemic, I'm sure we will travel again. And good news is that everybody's saying that domestic travel has gained momentum. China has gone up to nearly 90% of the domestic travels. So there are hopes that it will manage to recover back, hopefully earlier. So what we have to do for the industry, first, definitely we have to listen and we have to work with the OEMs, because they are the ones that's going to be driving the industry's requirement. So for Malaysia, what do we have? One of the major milestones for aerospace industry for the last maybe 2-3 years was aerospace industry now has been identified as one of the industrial pillars for RMK12, which is the Malaysian 12 plan. So it's supposed to be 2021 to 2025. It's a 5-year plan. So it has been identified as one of them 5 industrial pillars. So with that, government is giving the industry priorities in terms of fundings and also resources. That's even prior to COVID. So we know we still will have to work with the government in terms of trying to find the best solution and trying the best way forward to harness the government support and also the things that we can do together. So what we need to do right now is we need to start reviewing the targets, what we have in the Malaysian Aerospace Blueprint. I'm sure it has taken a hit, but we hope that we can get back to the same targets within the next 1 or 2 years. And this is where going forward it's important about government getting involved in the industry, looking at within government to government initiatives, government to businesses, and of course businesses to businesses. So the main drivers or the strengths of the Malaysian aerospace industry is given that we have, if you look at the value drivers, we have competitive labor rates. That's one of the outstanding things that we have here in Malaysia. We have highly efficient sites on lean initiatives. And one thing that I'm proud of is we have proven quality and we have proven delivery records. We have also managed to start the tooling manufacturing around in Malaysia, to complement the parts manufacturing. And also we are looking at reinstating some of the design capabilities that we have before, but we're looking at the new programs later on going forward. So key enablers, like I said before, national priority on aerospace can become one of the major industries. It has always been a promoted industry, so we've been enjoying a lot of incentives by the government. But with this, is given a lot more highlights. We've got strong government support. We've got a lot of more regional supply chains, and all the supply chains have OEM's approvals, so it's easy to bring work into Malaysia and also the region, and also the capability for development and also to making new tools here. Right? So we have to harness all those key enablers and so value drivers to make Malaysia as one of the strongest competitors in aerospace. I wouldn't say even not just for Asia, but in the global industry. Right. So again, this is just a summary of what we've talked about. We've talked about government-to-government aerospace relationship, and that's where we will try to, I would say, lobby for work, lobby for collaborations, and lobby for technology. So what we have to develop is stronger ecosystem in Malaysia, and we have to work on our industrial strategy blueprint. We have to make that work. We do have to look at the threats around in terms of our competitiveness, our ability to contribute technology, our product themselves. We have to be good. At the end of the day, the target or the objective is to be involved in the next future aircraft, because that's the future. We have to be part of that. I think this is my last slide. So how do we strengthen our position in the industry? What the OEMs is looking for is, of course, competitive pricing. So as an industry in Malaysia, we have to improve our efficiency and start reducing wastages. That means we can offer to the OEMs competitive pricing. It will, of course, at the end of the day, profitability is the main objective for all businesses. So we have to be competitive, and also we have to make sure that we make the profits. With the current, I would say allowance, just opportunity for us, with the time available, with capacity available, with capability that we have, we should look at improving our processes to make sure that our parts quality and integrity is good. We can start introducing automation into our quality system. One of the programs that we had was trying to introduce self-inspection toolings, where we can do the final dimensional inspection on the tools that we build the parts or on the assembly jigs. So that would save time, and that would also increase our efficiency. We're also looking at better quality system, like Cik Samad has been talking about. Cik Isham has talked about APQPs. We're introducing that into the system also in the supply chain system. We are also very much into the lean continuous improvement. So with that, we can be more competitive, more attractive suppliers to the OEMs. I think one of the main view going forward is we need to have something on the table, or bring something to the table when we're discussing with the OEMs. We just can't go in and say, oh, we're the cheapest. We can't do that anymore, because at this point in time, Malaysia will not be the cheapest. We can be one of the best costs, but we need to bring something to the table, either investments in terms of toolings. But for me, one of the major things is technology. Bringing in new technology in terms of processes, in terms of quality, in terms of management system. We do need to do that. We have to introduce bigger projects in terms of R&Ds. What can we do internally to contribute to the aircraft manufacturing, especially for the new products, for the new aircraft. So it is important for Malaysian industry, together with the government, to bring something to the table when discussing with the OEMs. That is why we need to be attractive and more and competitive in terms of against the other regions. And other focus that we can look at is looking at other products in the aerospace industry. Other than composite and metallics, detail parts and assemblies, we've also manufacture avionics. We've also manufacture internals, or what do you call that? Like galleys and seats and interiors. That's the term. Or we started making interiors too. So we also have to look at new products and new concepts. Rolls-Royce were talking about electrical propulsions. So we do need to get into that going for the future. Airbus has talked about air taxis and drones. And again, there's still a lot of technology in aerospace that we can dive in. And most importantly, we have to be good at to be a attractive selection for the OEMs. So as a whole, we just can't be happy with what we have at this point of time, because for the next couple of years, it's going to be flattish. And the opportunity for us to grow and to get involved in a lot other works in aerospace is there in the next couple of years. We do have the capacity, we do have the resources, and we do have the government support to do this. So we need to be able to harness all those again and consolidate and move forward. And that's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Zul, for delivering such a comprehensive picture of the aerospace manufacturing, especially into Spirit Aerosystems. You also mentioned about the resilience of the aerospace industry and working with OEM to build and continue with the sustainable operations. You picked up very good points on introducing more automation technology, bringing new products to the table, air taxi, research and development, training, technology, so on. I would like to thank you for your time. We are running a bit short on the time, so really a lot of thanks for your time in delivering this presentation.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next presentation has been, in fact, introduced while Mr. Zul was speaking about the new products, research and development, and new products on the table. Our next presenter is Mr. Hon Chew. He is Head of Singapore and Business Development Southeast Asia for Volocopter. His presentation will be on the airplane of the future, UAV production in Malaysia. We have already heard a lot. We were touching on this fact throughout the presentation about urban aerial mobility, how Subang can become an important piece of it, and so on. I would like to welcome Mr. Hon Chew. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I hope everyone can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Great. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present Volocopter to you today. My name is Hon Chew, and I am the Head of Singapore and Business Development for Southeast Asia for Volocopter. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you today in person due to the coronavirus, but I do hope to make this a entertaining and interesting presentation for everyone. The title of this presentation is Urban Air Mobility, Ready for Takeoff. I'll start by providing a high-level overview of our company before discussing the possible routes in Malaysia for urban air mobility and the possibility for UAM to take off. So without further ado, let's get started. So is UAM ready for takeoff? Well, in our minds, there's never been a more important time, right, for urban air mobility to do that here in Southeast Asia. And that has to do with the fact that pollution, urban congestion, and unsustainable transportation has caused most cities, especially here in Asia, to fail their citizens when it comes to providing clean, affordable, and sustainable mobility options. As revealed, for example, in the TomTom Traffic Index, drivers in Kuala Lumpur lost about 170 hours or 7 days stuck in rush hour traffic. While we can definitely build more tunnels and bridges and roads, right, we can say that nonetheless, ground-based transportation alone will not solve this problem. Oftentimes, it is just not possible to build another road lane or another subway line without significant economic and societal costs that displaces entire communities. So our proposal is to take this to the sky. right, and fly above the space, right, fly in the space above cities. The picture you see here is our vision of what we can do in Kuala Lumpur, not in 7 or 10 years, but really within the next 3 years. What this would look like is shown in this video. This is using semi-actual footage from our Singapore test flight last year. What you see here is an individual visiting Singapore, wanting to catch up with his friends on Sentosa Island. Of course, many of you know Sentosa. It's a little paradise island, right, south of Singapore, and all is perfect on the island. The person you see here shown goes into our app to book his flight. You can see that we have a partnership with Grab here. He selects the flight option and gets taken to the Voloport by car, or he can get there via scooter or train, whatever is best for him right now. We're about connected mobility as well. He arrives at his check-in area for the Voloport, confirms his identity, his weight, and his flight. And then he boards his flight to get to his destination. The main attraction and benefit, aside, of course, from being able to fly over the city, which is, of course, just a beautiful experience in and of itself, is that you can have substantial time savings as well as the predictability of when you will arrive because there are no traffic jams in the sky. Right, so these are footage from when our Volocopter actually flew right over the marina last October. This is, of course, the idea, and this is what we are about. And you can see how happy he is to see his friends. Okay. We've developed 2 aircraft models that addresses 2 different needs. The use case in the movie is for the Volo City, which is what you see on the right. We aim to have this certified by EASA by 2022. It's an air taxi with a 35-kilometer range, 100 kilometer per hour cruise speed, and fast battery swap. We don't want to fast charge batteries because it's more efficient for operations and more sustainable for the batteries to be optimally charged. And it has a payload of 200 kilograms, so it carries 2 people easily, including some hand luggage. On the left-hand side, you see the Volo drone, which is based on the same propulsion unit, but has been developed to cater to different needs by lifting cargo in the range of 150 to 200 kilograms. Speaking with local partners in this region, we have identified substantial interest when it comes to logistic use cases for ship-to-shore deliveries, for the mining industry, and for transporting cargoes to offshore islands. But the Volo drone will also be used to transport containers of goods in an urban environment. Now, looking at the Volo City, this is an aircraft that, in our opinion, right, has it all. The highest safety standards in aviation, for instance. We will be certified to the highest possible standards, just the same as the commercial planes that you fly in today, right? Your Boeing 737s and your Airbus A320s. We have best-in-class noise signature, which is extremely important when you're flying above an urban environment. We also believe that we have the perfect design for the urban mission, right? Meaning that vertical takeoff and landing is extremely efficient, and the battery swap minimizes the ground handling time. We have a seating capacity of 2, so either 2 passengers or 1 passenger plus 1 pilot. In the beginning, we'll be starting operations with 1 pilot on board, and we'll phase the pilots out over time and go into auto flight. The aircraft addresses 80% of the demand for routes within a city, and it's an affordable and profitable aircraft. We can achieve profitability at premium taxi prices with current technology. So this is not a dream, it's not a concept, it's what we're going after, a real opportunity to build a profitable and sustainable business that we believe citizens can benefit from. We're very proud also to be the first eVTOL startup in history to receive a Design Organization Approval, DOA, by EASA. EASA is the Civil Aviation Authority for the European Union, so equivalent to the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, CAM. To us, This meant a lot as it underlined how we have grown from a small company to an organization that is now deemed worthy of having a DOA approved by the ESA. We have a very strong track record when it comes to test flights. We're not about delivering computer-aided designs to your screen, right? We are about changing the world for real. Our history of flights take us back to 2016 when we flew the world's first multi-copter with a permit to fly, and we repeated that in Dubai in 2017, and then we flew indoors at CES in 2018, which was quite the challenge. In 2019, besides flying integrated with the airspace management of Helsinki International Airport, as well as in Stuttgart, Germany, we also flew over, of course, the marina in our first manned public demonstration in Asia in October of 2019 in Singapore. This allowed us to showcase and educate the public on what the technology is about, what it feels like, right, to have the aircraft flying, and to demonstrate the noise level to the public. We also built a voloport, as you may have seen in the video early on. It was built as a non-permanent structure in Singapore last year in order to show what a vertiport could look like, right? In order to get the engagement and discussions going around this, this topic. Currently, the only reference for us are heliports, right? So we wanted to put all of our conceptual thinking and the thinking of our partner for this project, Skyports, into this building. We did that for the ITS World Congress for a week, after which we took it down. This brings us to partnering, which is very important to us. We have an extensive network along the value chain for urban air mobility services and various partners that we work with, including Grab and Skyports that you saw. They help us cover all elements and steps, right, in the value chain. Now, let's talk a little bit about Singapore, just south of where you guys are. Right? In Singapore, we're starting with a touristic route designed to provide a skyline view, right, of the central business district area. No such service exists today in the southern waterfronts of Singapore. We believe that this is a unique attraction that will contribute to the recovery of the badly hit tourism industry, right, because of COVID. Now, flying in such a touristic route, we're actually able to fly over water, which reduces the risk posed to ground infrastructure as well as people on the ground. We're able to also use the same voloport for both takeoff and landing, which reduces in half the ground infrastructure investment that's needed for us to operate this flight. Lastly, we're able to capitalize on the novelty and the uniqueness of the flight rather than needing to immediately compete on time savings against the excellent ground transportation options that exist in Singapore today. These three factors combined means that we're able to offer a profitable, right, business from day one, which is something that I believe is very critical to the sustainability and the growth of not just our company, but the industry as a whole. Now, while we'll start with this touristic flight around the marina in Singapore, we want to expand our services to more routes, as you can see on this slide. And not just domestically, but also cross-border, for example, into Malaysia. From the voloport in Marina South, right, we can operate a flight to Johor Bahru, right, which is well within the 35-kilometer range of our aircraft. This would also facilitate tourists or business travelers, right, who value that time savings between Singapore and Malaysia. Furthermore, this route is usually very congested before COVID at the checkpoints on both sides during peak hours and on the weekends sometimes. So with the Volocity, we can help reduce, right, the time that's spent in congestion, alleviating some of the problems, right, of cross-border traffic. We'll then further expand, right, in a city using a city hub. Now, let me explain how we would do that in an example, right, for Kuala Lumpur. In KL, we would look at first connecting the Kuala Lumpur International Airport in the south, right, with KL City Center. Within the KL City Center, we can then, of course, add potential tourist routes, which allow tourists to escape the congestions of KLCC to discover KL from above, as we believe that this will be a special and memorable way for tourists to see the city, right, from an aerial view above. Since the Volocity flies at a lower height compared to airplanes and traditional helicopters and is less noisy, passengers will have a new and better way to experience the city because they don't have to wear earmuffs while they're flying above. As we build more ports, right, we can then connect more and more areas and expand our network, as you can see on this slide, where we can connect the city center to Port Klang, to Batu Caves in the north, right, and to the Genting Highlands. There's so many possibilities to explore Malaysia, and we believe that UAM is ready to take off, and starting with the tourist route, expanding to different routes for commuters to use on a regular basis. The tourist route in particular will contribute to the country's tourism GDP in Malaysia, right, as it offers an alternative way for tourists and Malaysians, right, to view the city from above. Let me go a little bit deeper, right, into these touristic routes. An example of how we can integrate UAM into the tourism scene is by using the Volocity to bring tourists to, for example, the famous Batu Caves from the KL City Center. On the way from KL to the Batu Caves, they will be able to enjoy sights that one will not be able to see from just driving. We can arrange pickup services from the passenger's hotel to offer a holistic package that includes, for example, yoga sessions at Batu Caves, where one can escape the hustle and bustle of KL into this retreat. We want to create an experience that really highlights what Malaysia can offer. We also designed a route that is within the KL city center. And in this slide, we describe the entire customer journey from, on the left, checking in at the Voloport with a welcome drink, right, into boarding and flying on the Volocity, to, on the right, activities that we would suggest after alighting from the Volocity. We see that this can integrate the UAM ride with different local traits, right, and create a truly Malaysia experience for tourists. And we believe that there would actually be also demand among local Malaysians for this type of experience as well. Now, coming back to the broader picture, I'll quickly mention that we offer the possibility to actually reserve tickets for the first air taxi flights as soon as they happen, as early as 2022 and 2023. There were a few reasons why we did this. The first is that a lot of people, frankly, kept asking us, right, when they'll be able to pre-book flights, because they wanted to make sure that they were part of the first people to experience this. It's also a way for us to show our commitment and our confidence in our timeline to launch this in the next 3 years. At this time, I'm happy to report that the reservations have been sold out after a week and a half, and that we were very encouraged by this strong show of public demand. Now, let me discuss some of the non-technical aspects, right, of launching UAM. For example, noise. When we talk to authorities and partners, oftentimes we get asked, how loud is it going to be? Because noise is, again, a major issue, right, when you're launching an urban air mobility option that's flying directly over a city. And we usually reply that Volocopter, it's not that loud. But what does that really mean, right? Well, in numbers, that's 63 decibels, as you can see there, at 120-meter distance, which is the lowest altitude that this aircraft will probably fly, right, during cruise altitude. This is, to be clear, below the average noise level of many Asian cities, including Kuala Lumpur. A study that was done by Malaysia universities found that the traffic noise level in KL is generally between 75 to 85 decibels. So when you're in KL, this aircraft, right, will be below that background noise level at 120-meter distance. And of course, when you compare it to traditional helicopters like the Bell 407, right, that you see there, it's at a significantly lower noise. Of course, noise is one of the critical factors in gaining public acceptance of UAM, which is another key factor, right, in order for this industry to really take off. In our public flight demonstration in Stuttgart in 2019, we worked with the Stuttgart University to gather public opinion both before and after the flight, right, from the general public who attended and watched the flight. One of the great outcomes for us is that generally, right, people in Stuttgart were very positive about the addition of UAM to the urban mobility landscape, and all judged that the impact on traffic noise as well as the environment would be positive, as you can see in the chart on the right there. This is extremely encouraging, and we will need to build upon this great work in order to make air taxis a reality here in Southeast Asia. And finally, let me close the loop. Right? As I said in the beginning, there's never been a more important time, right, for urban air mobility to take off here in Southeast Asia. Number one, right, climate change is the crisis of our generation, and sustainability has become one of the major pillars, right, for our personal and professional lives. Number two, right, the trend of urbanization and megacity expansion has been ongoing and is not likely to stop in the short term. Finding options for cities and citizens in this region is really important. And last and third but not last, right, new technologies that has come up in the last decade has allowed new solutions like air taxi, like ourselves, to become possible and reasonable. And that's why it's more important than ever for us to grow the urban air mobility ecosystem right here in Southeast Asia in order for it to take off. This closes the presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you have some valuable insights from this. I'm happy to take questions from the floor. And I would like to again thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Honshu. Really interesting because VTOL and unmanned happens to be my personal area of interest as well. We were in fact in communication with Volocopter way back in 2016. So it's really fascinating to see how Volocopter has evolved. My question to you would be that we see so many air mobility solutions coming from traditional players like Airbus or even from car manufacturers like Hyundai. So what would keep Volocopter continue to as a strong player in urban air mobility? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would go back to what I mentioned before. When we started the company in 2011, it was really more of an experimental aircraft. And we've now, the Volocity is really our fourth generation aircraft. And really, as I mentioned before, it's designed for that inner city within a city travel. 35-kilometer range is more than sufficient to cover practically all the cities in the world. And when you design an aircraft, there's certain trade-offs that you have to make, and we've optimized the aircraft for both fast certification as well as that inner city use case, right? So what does that mean? That means that we don't have, for example, a tilt motor design, which is what some of our competitors have, which makes it significantly more difficult to certify. We started, by targeting a two-person aircraft with 200 kilogram capacity, which lowers the overall weight of the aircraft, which also makes it a lot easier and quicker to certify. Compared to, again, if you look at Hyundai and some of our competitors, they're targeting significantly larger aircraft, 2 to 3 times the carrying capacity, right, of what we have. And then, of course, the last thing I'll mention is noise, right? Again, which is why we emphasize it on so much is we've developed the aircraft with inner city travel in mind, and so we've optimized the noise so that when the propellers are spinning, it's not just about the raw volume, right, decibels, but it's also about the frequency of the sound it produces. And we've optimized it in such a way that does not create such harsh noise that you hear, for example, from helicopters. And so when you combine all of these factors, you can see that we've made a very conscious decision to focus the practical use case that we see, which is inner city travel and fast certification to allow us to get to the market first, right, in 2022, 2023 timeframe, rather than, for example, 5 to 6 years out compared to, which is what you see from the others.
Thanks for your answer. We hope that you once again open your reservations for the second flight and we all get an opportunity to board on flight. Thanks for your presentation.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. With that, we come to an end of today's series of presentation, and allow me to summarize what we have witnessed through the presentations today. So, firstly, we had the contribution from engine OEMs such as Rolls-Royce on acceleration and digitization as well as analytics, and how they are going to be a centerpiece in production manufacturing and also in aftermarket. We also heard about the electric engines, new age materials, and all of them come together to provide overall lesser carbon footprint. Boeing had a wonderful presentation today. They helped us paint a very good picture in terms of the future outlook of evolution of aircraft fleet, as well as the projections going ahead. We also witnessed how infrastructure players are providing business models and accommodating aerospace manufacturing, such as those coming from Boston Projects and MHB. We also observed some key success factors from UMW, successfully steered and navigated through the entire ecosystem to now become a very integral part of the aerospace value chain, coming totally from a different background of automotive. The impact of COVID-19 was well explained by Spirit AeroSystems and how they will continue to be a part of the OEM value chain and operate the business, the processes sustainably. At the same time, they're also looking for new products and new services just to maintain the level of employees, operations, and so on. So those were the very all interesting elements. And lastly, we did see a very interesting presentation coming from Volocopter, completely adding a new dimension to aerial mobility, intercity and urban aerial mobility. I would like to leave a couple of recommendations, if I may, from a Frost & Sullivan perspective. I'm trying to share the content, if I can get that mode. Otherwise, yeah, all good. I hope you can see my screen. So what we would like to give a few recommendations. We see overall that COVID has necessarily explained and accelerated the need for more digitization. There is great importance of leaner practices, keeping the liquidity as a priority to respond to similar events and continued events of COVID in the future. There's a lot of consolidation happening in the aerospace manufacturing, MRO, airline suppliers. So I would say a lot of bear market consolidation over there. There are strategic bailouts being planned by the government. They are being implemented by the government and also by private investments in enabling this consolidation to get some kind of economy of scale to respond to the lower demand in the market right now. We do see some other events such as there is more focus on cargo operations and e-commerce. So those are a couple of elements to focus on going ahead for 2021. And now there is a ever more focus on digital transformation, automation technologies, and they will see a higher penetration in the market that will offer the reliability in these times of crisis. We are also seeing more automation, contactless systems, and what we can finally see, but then there are companies which are also being greedy when others are fearful. So we do see a bit of consolidation, merger and acquisitions. So this is also the time for many cash-rich companies to take advantage of acquiring or working together or collaborating with other companies. So those would be the couple of strategic recommendations, what we see for the CEO, C-suite people in any of the companies, how to navigate their way beyond 2020 and welcoming 2021 on a new note. I would lastly like to thank all the presenters today and the organizers. It was really a very interesting session of presentations, and it does mark the end of day one of the conference. I would like to thank all of you again and the agencies, the government agencies that have supported today's session. So with that, enjoy the rest of the day and continue to watch the KLIABC series of presentations tomorrow as well. Thank you so much.